Welcome back to the Deep Dive. So glad you're here with us.
Always good to be here. We've got all our notes and sources ready to go.
Okay, so let's dive into something we all deal with probably every single day. Money. Buying groceries, paying rent, maybe dreaming about saving for a trip. It's everywhere.
And let's be honest, sometimes talking about it, especially if English isn't your first language, can feel a bit awkward.
Yeah, definitely awkward. Or maybe stressful.
Exactly, because money isn't just about the numbers, is it? It's tied up with personal feelings, plans for the future, what you need day to day.
Right.
Been looking at some great ways to help learners, maybe around that A2, B1 level, get the language tools they need.
Yeah, tools for talking about money in just, normal everyday situations without getting all tangled up in the language. We're talking essential words, key phrases.
And even those little things like how your voice sounds that make you sound more natural when money comes up.
So yeah, we'll look at the basic words, see how they fit into useful phrases, check them out in a quick conversation example.
And touch on sounding natural intonation, a bit of grammar, all aimed at getting you ready for those real-world money moments.
So why is it actually so important?
Well, like you said, it's just unavoidable, isn't it? You're in a shop, you have to ask the price.
Or you're making plans with friends and someone asks about the cost.
Right. Or you're sorting out bills at home. It's constantly part of how we communicate.
Yeah, you might need to ask, how much is this? Or maybe say, I don't think I have enough for that right now. So this is about getting those tools. And it seems like the first step is building up some core vocabulary.
Exactly.
Okay, let's unpack some of these core words then. First one, spend.
Yeah, spend. Probably the most basic money action after, getting it. Just means using your money to buy things or pay for stuff.
Simple enough. Like the example, I try not to spend too much on snacks. Money going out.
That's it. Money leaving your wallet or account.
Got it. So what about the opposite, like keeping money?
That brings us to save up. Notice the up part. It's a phrasal verb.
Okay.
It means keeping money, usually over time, for a specific goal in the future. Like in the example, I'm saving up for a new phone.
So it's more specific than just saving. It implies you have something in mind you want to buy later.
Precisely. You're accumulating money for something.
Makes sense. And, well, to manage all that spending and saving up, you probably need some kind of plan, right?
You definitely do. And that's where budget comes in. A budget is basically your plan for using your money.
Like mapping out income and expenses.
Exactly. How much comes in, how much you plan to spend, how much you plan to save. The example given is, I need to make a budget so I don't overspend. It's about control.
Okay, a plan. But how do you know if you're actually sticking to the plan?
Good question. That's where track comes in handy. In this context, to track means you follow or record where your money is going.
So writing things down or using an app?
Yeah, could be. Like the example, she tracks her expenses every day. It helps you see the reality of your spending compared to your budget. It's about awareness, really.
That seems super important if you're trying to save or just, not overspend. Okay, next word. Broke.
Yes, that's a very, very common informal word. Slang, really. It just means you have no money or very little right now.
Like the example, I'm broke until payday.
Classic. Everyone understands that feeling. It's casual, but you'll hear it a lot.
For sure. Okay, and finally, the most basic bit of info you need before you spend anything.
Cost.
Cost.
Simply means how much something is, its price. The example is nice and clear. This sandwich cost me $8.
Okay, so those 6 words, spend, save up, budget, track, broke, cost. So next up are some really practical phrases.
The most basic one, probably, is asking the price.
How much does it cost?
Or let's say you're trying to stick to your budget. A good way to signal that politely is,
I'm on a tight budget.
yes, on a tight budget. It tells people you need to be careful with money right now. Very useful phrase.
That's a great way to explain maybe why you can't join in on something expensive without getting into too much detail.
Right. And related to that, maybe a more direct way to say you can't afford something is just
It's too expensive for me.
simple, clear, gets the message across. Very common phrase.
Okay. What about social stuff? Like, you go out for dinner with friends. That always comes up.
Ah, yes. The bill arrives. Then you need, let's split the bill.
Crucial one.
Yeah.
Means everyone pays their share, right?
Usually, yeah. Or you divide the total cost among the group. Essential for eating out or group activities.
Definitely needed that one learning English. Okay, and sometimes, well, even with the best budget, you might need a little help. How do you ask for that politely?
That's where "can I borrow some money" comes in. It's the standard polite way to ask for a short-term loan from someone you know.
And it uses can I, which is generally polite for requests, right?
Exactly. It uses that modal verb "can" to soften the request. Super important for potentially sensitive things like asking for money.
You know, actually being used, like in that little sample dialogue said in a coffee shop.
Yeah, that dialogue is a nice little snapshot. It takes those words and phrases we just talked about and weaves them into a totally relatable chat about, well, expensive coffee.
So you hear them react to the prices straight away, like, coffee prices keep going up.
And mentioning the specific cost, paid $5.
And then you see the vocabulary pop up naturally. One person says they're trying to spend less lately.
Which leads the other person to explain why they're also being careful they're saving up for a weekend trip.
Okay, so you see spend and save up right there, cutting back now with a future goal.
Exactly. And then they talk about needing to budget carefully for that trip.
And the first person agrees, saying, I need to make a budget too, and admits they always forget where my money goes, which is also very relatable.
Totally. And that leads perfectly to the suggestion to track my spending using an app, maybe. So the word track comes in as a solution.
Right. And it ends with that slightly funny, slightly desperate hope to finally stop being broke by the end of the month, using that slang word.
It's simple, yeah. But it really shows how these bits of language, the words, the phrases just fit together naturally when people chat about money in everyday life. It shows the language in action.
Seeing it used like that makes a huge difference. But it's not just what you say, is it? It's also how you say it.
Yeah.
The way your voice goes up and down. Intonation.
Oh, absolutely crucial. That musical quality of your voice carries so much meaning and feeling. And there are some basic patterns in English that are really helpful to know.
Like, for questions, your voice often goes up at the end, like asking the price. How much does it cost? It kind of licks up.
Exactly that lift. How much does it cost? It signals you're asking for information, expecting an answer. Very clear signal.
And for just, like, regular statements, it tends to fall. I'm saving money.
Yes, I'm saving money. That downward movement is typical for statements just giving information. It sounds finished.
Okay. And you can also emphasize words to show strong feelings, right? Like if that sandwich was crazily expensive, you wouldn't just say, it's expensive. You'd say,
it's too expensive. Yeah, stressing that word too really hits home that the price is way more than you expected or think is reasonable.
Gotcha.
So understanding and, trying to use these basic intonation patterns really helps people understand not just your words, but your attitude too. Makes a big difference in sounding clear and confident.
Adds that natural feel.
Yeah.
Okay, and related to sounding natural, there's also the grammar behind it all, just briefly.
Yeah, the why behind certain structures, like using the present continuous, that ing form for talking about current money plans or temporary situations.
Like in the dialogue, I'm saving up or I'm spending less.
Precisely. You use I'm saving because it's happening now around the time you're speaking. It's an ongoing action or a temporary focus, not necessarily a permanent habit. It's just the natural way to talk about current financial activities.
Okay, that makes sense. And then using those modal verbs like can for polite requests.
Right. Can I borrow? We mentioned that. Using can or could just makes the request softer, more polite. It's standard for asking for things, especially something sensitive like money.
So understanding a little bit about why we use certain grammar in these money situations helps you use it correctly too.
It all connects the words, the phrases, how you say them, the grammar underneath. It gives you the whole package for sounding natural and being understood when money comes up.
Okay, brilliant. So let's just quickly recap the main takeaways for everyone listening. We started with that core vocabulary.
Spend, save up, budget, track, broke, and cost. the essentials.
Then we looked at those really useful, practical phrases you can use straight away.
Like, how much does it cost? I'm on a tight budget, it's too expensive for me, let's split the bill, and can I borrow some money?
We saw them all working together in that coffee shop chat, which was a great little example.
And we talked about sounding natural. That means thinking about your intonation, rising for questions,
Falling for statements.
and using stress to show feeling. Super important.
And finally, just to touch on the grammar, like using present continuous for ongoing money plans, and modals like can for polite requests.
Putting all those pieces together, the words, phrases, delivery, really does build a solid foundation. If you practice these things, those tricky money conversations should start to feel much, much easier.
Yeah, it really empowers you to handle those everyday situations, doesn't it? Whether it's just buying coffee or something bigger like planning a trip or sorting out bills.
It's about taking control of that aspect of communication.
Definitely. So here's a final thought for you, something to maybe mull over. Building on that idea of budgeting and tracking we heard about. What does being on a budget actually mean for you in your life right now? Or maybe something smaller? What's just one thing, one spending habit maybe, that you could try to trap this week? You could even try using some of the words we talked about today.
That's a great challenge, because thinking about it and actually trying to use the language, even just for yourself, that's where the real progress happens.
Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive into talking about money, and we really hope it helps boost your confidence for your next conversation, whatever it might be about.
Yeah, hope it was useful.